everybody, this is Ashley, and I am coming to you from the woods of Maine. And my topic today is the function of conscious intention. The function of conscious intention. And I think this information will be interesting to anyone who has spent any time meditating before. So I'll start by saying that one of the most fascinating pieces of information that I have learned so far from reading the book, The Mind Illuminated, is the difference between how we direct our attention and how we sustain our attention. So we all have this capacity to be able to direct our attention to something, and it's different than when something grabs our attention. So let's say right now some loud sound were to happen right behind you. You know, you would turn around and look to see what happened, and that would be something grabbing your attention. But we also have this ability to consciously choose where to direct our attention. And that's what we're doing when we meditate, right? We are consciously directing our attention to a primary object. That object might be the sensations of sitting, it might be the sensations of the breath, it might be sounds arising and passing away, but we are consciously choosing to direct our attention to something. The part of the mind that sustains that attention for more than just a few moments is a completely different situation. So the mind that sustains the attention works entirely unconsciously. This is a quote from Chuladasa, who is the primary author of the book, The Mind Illuminated. He says, "We can't use our will to control how long we remain focused on one thing. Instead, an unconscious process weighs the importance of what we're focusing on against other possible objects of attention. If an object is important and interesting enough, attention remains stable. If something else is judged more important or interesting, then the balance tips and the attention moves elsewhere." So doesn't this piece of information explain so much? All right, it's just... if you've spent any time meditating and you've noticed how hard it is to sustain your attention on a primary object, this can bring a lot of freedom to know that sustaining your attention is an unconscious process of the mind. I think what this does, the freedom that it brings, is it makes it impersonal. You know, you realize that this is just the human mind doing what the human mind does. So, incredibly helpful to understand this information, and it also begs a really big question, which is, what do we do, right? How do we learn to have stable attention when it's not under our conscious control? And if, like Chuladasa says, willpower doesn't work, then what does? And the answer to that very important question is conscious intention. That's our ticket. Conscious intention is our ticket for deepening our practice and moving away from suffering and towards freedom. It's really that big. So forming and holding conscious intentions over and over again creates the causes and conditions for stable attention and for mindfulness. So Chuladasa, again, in the book The Mind Illuminated, says that it's really easy to lose sight of just how simple of a process this is of training the mind. Conscious intentions lead to mental actions, and mental actions repeated over time become mental habits. So conscious intentions to mental actions, and mental actions become mental habits. Now, these trained habits of mind, they can lead to joy, equanimity, and insight. That's really great news because, as all of us know, if you've spent any time meditating, we're not a clean slate, right? We already have some very well-worn mental habits that lead us to suffering and pain. So the fact that we can create new mental habits that lead to joy, insight, and wisdom is really a wonderful thing. So how does this work? How is it that conscious intention is the key to this process? Well, Chuladasa explains that any information that is held in our consciousness is communicated to our unconscious. Consciousness communicates to unconscious, and it provides a new piece of information for our unconscious processes to take into account in that weighing process that they do. So for example, if we hold an intention to return our attention to our breath over and over again, it informs the unconscious that this paying attention to the breath is important. It informs that weighing process when we return over and over again, that paying to the attention to the breath or whatever the primary object is important and interesting. Now, looking for a modern analogy to this, what I think of is the algorithms, like in YouTube or in social media. And I'm just going to use myself as an example. So every time that I click on one of those dodo pet rescue videos on YouTube, which I love because in 3 minutes, these animals go from like total despair to their happy forever home. So in 3 minutes, you get the full roller coaster of emotions with a happy ending. Every time I click on one of those, it tells the algorithm that I find them interesting and important. And so more of them come up for me, right? So this is somewhat similar to the same way that if we keep bringing our conscious intention to our primary object while we're meditating, we are teaching our unconscious what we want, that we want more of this primary object. Okay, so that's how it works. I've also found it helpful to dig a little deeper into this word intention. The definition, the English definition of the word intention, is a thing intended, an aim or plan. And there's actually a Pali word. Pali is the language that was used during the time of the Buddha, as many of you know, I'm sure. There's a Pali word called chaitana. And chaitana is often translated as intention. Sometimes it's translated as intention, and sometimes it's translated as volition. But the definition of chaitana is the impulse behind an action. The impulse behind an action and the mental factor that moves or urges the mind in a particular direction toward a specific goal. So that really resonates me, that urging the mind in a particular direction towards a specific goal. That is our conscious intention. We are knowing that we're urging our mind in a particular direction. So Culadasa uses an example in the book about a child who's learning how to play catch. In the beginning, the coordination isn't there, so it's hard for them to catch the ball. But if they keep bringing their conscious intention to catching the ball, eventually it starts to happen. It's a great physical example of what we can do with conscious intention. Insight meditation teacher Joseph Goldstein, who I deeply respect, he calls chaitana the knowing we're about to do something. So he calls it the about to moment. And here's what's really interesting. This intention, this chaitana, it's there in every single moment of our conscious experience. You have it right now because you're continuing to watch this video. It's just that we're not very often aware of it. It's not very often within our awareness that it's happening, but it's there. And then with this conscious intention, the function of conscious intention, like so many of the teachings of meditation, what we learn through this practice has very big ramifications for the rest of our life, or I should say implications. It's a positive thing. It has wonderful implications for our life when we're not practicing. So as we continue to train the mind through conscious intention, as we continue to cultivate stable attention and mindfulness, we just suddenly find that we have more conscious awareness of our intentions in any given moment of our lives, whether we're officially practicing or not. So that gives us a lot of choice. When you know what your intention is, you have more freedom and more choice. So the function of conscious intention is to help us train the unconscious processes of the mind so that we can achieve stable attention and mindfulness. And I think it's really nothing less than the tool that we have been given so that we can evolve as a species. It's really that important. And I'll just end by saying from my own experience that if we can just keep remembering that using conscious intention is very simple, right? It's not complex, it's not heavy, it's very simple. And when it's flavored with some patience and metta, with that unlimited friendliness, this training of the mind can be very pleasant and enjoyable. So that's what I'm wishing for myself and for everyone else. Thanks so much for watching.